My name is Joe Meunier of the Southern Oral History Program at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I'm in North Charleston, South Carolina. We are here today to interview Mr. William Saunders, and with that, I think, Carrie, I will turn it over to you. Thank you.
Very good. What were the kinds of things that began to contribute to your political sensibilities as a young person?
Second year there as a sophomore, a group of us got together and decided to volunteer for the Army. And I was 16 at that time, but they really didn't care like they don't today. They let my age be 18 and I was able to go into the military. I went to Fort Jackson, and then it was one of the most amazing things, to California, got on a plane and went to Hawaii, took my basic training in Hawaii, and only volunteers could go there. And my suffering, after I look back at it, I suffered more racism in the United States Army than I've suffered any place in my life before or after. And it was at Schofield Barracks in Hawaii, you know. And we left right from there, went straight to Korea, no vacation, no nothing. Went straight to war, and they took us in on LST, where they dropped the front of it in the water, where you run up on the beach with the guns and bayonets and stuff like that. And that was one of the scariest things. And you and I were talking earlier, that's still having flashback with some of that stuff. But we were about 3 miles away from fighting anybody. Go ahead.
You confronted more racism in Hawaii than you had encountered on Johns Island or in Charleston?
Hawaii and the military, even in Korea.
Yeah.
Racism was real bad in Korea, but in Hawaii. And I just realized later on, it was right after 1951, they had just really integrated the Army. Mm-hmm. There were 4 blacks in our company, with 1 Hispanic, 1 Indian. And we were and I didn't realize until many years later that all of these people were poor white men who also had a lot of problems. Mm-hmm. And the only place that they could vent any of those problems was on people like me. So they had their own problem reason, and we had a lot of fights with that.
What kinds of, do you remember particular instances of?
Oh, I've had physical fights, and you know, a guy would beat me, but my grandmother told me I had such a bad temper. I get real mad. I don't give up, so I don't stop when people say to stop. So I end up being the one getting in trouble. But they did so many things to the blacks. I had one guy, one of my best friends who died recently, made him dig a 6x6x6 hole, and the sergeant drop a dime in it, and then make him close it up. You know, those are the kinds of stuff that we went through. And it's a lot of it coming back to me more and more now. It's having a lot of flashback with that. Even in Korea in the war, I mean, the guy, my first sergeant, who I didn't know, on the front line, we just fought for 2 days, and I was going up the hill on top, and he said, "You black son of a bitch, if you come up here, I'll blow your brains out." And he had a 45 on me. And I decided at a point I was carrying my rifle was in the hole, and I was going to roll and get my gun, you know, like you saw some of them movies. Then I said, that 45 blow a hole straight through you, because I've seen 45 shot people with the hole back out. I went back to my hole and stayed there. When it was time for us to leave, he sent for me and said that had made me lead the whole company out, and of course, being in front, you get killed first, so he wanted to make sure that I was in front going out, and those kinds of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that we can laugh about, because if you don't, you cry about it. But the racism was just really heavy. And coming back, even into California, when we got back as heroes, because I got wounded and we were there in California, and they started calling out the white soldier's name, and then they called the black soldier. I never understood that until we got on. But black and white soldiers couldn't ride in the same train coach across America, so you had to ride in separate coaches.